Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. We hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, Adam. And as we move on here, right, this is this weekend's game, Eagles on Sunday versus the Ravens. I feel like this is the game that a lot of Eagles fans have been looking forward to for about 10 weeks now. A
Yeah.
game against the Ravens, right? And look, there's going to be a whole lot at stake. And I'm just excited for it. And I've decided I'm not going to draw. I think the Eagles have accomplished enough in the last 8 weeks from it for to sit here and say this doesn't have to be a litmus test game. You win, that's
It's
great. You lose, I'm
yeah,
not going to sit there until the
totally.
season's not over. It doesn't matter. It's just a game, but it's going to be a
Yeah,
fun game. And the important thing, Adam, is for the Eagles, it's not a litmus test game, but it's important to stay in that race to get that number one seed if they can get it in the NFC. Those pesky Lions keep figuring out ways to win, or their opponents keep figuring out ways to lose to them.
yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. But I got to tell you that this Ravens situation is fascinating. Look, as I was saying to our Patreon group, we had a great marathon chat, Zoom chat on Wednesday night. I almost went an hour and a half. It was so good, and it was really cool. I mean, Al, Kevin, and our group, we had a lot of more people showed up than I thought they would the night before Thanksgiving.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Jason, who's in Calgary, and or Cal, yeah, I think he's in Calgary, Alberta. So
No, it's Calgary. Yeah, you're right.
in Calgary, yeah, which is super cool, and yeah, it's just really cool. So anyway, I told the guys there, listen, this is a game that's not in a conference. You're facing a quarterback that is one of the best regular season quarterbacks in NFL history. Lamar Jackson's, I love watching him. He's I know he's not that good in the playoffs. He's got to be better then, but it's hard. You're talking about a short week trying to prepare for him. If the Eagles get rocked, don't worry about it. It doesn't mean anything. I wouldn't worry, but if they win, it's great. Hey, I'm just like you said. I'm looking forward to this game, but I wouldn't be worried about it if they get blown out. It's not a litmus test game at all. You don't play. They're not in your conference. You're not facing anyone like Lamar Jackson. He's super unique. I just wouldn't worry about it. People are. I think there's because everyone's excited about it. Yeah, if you love football, how the hell do you not want to see this game? This now, look, it would be great if it's like the game of the year because you have two quarterbacks who are fascinating. You've got defenses that are they're so different. Is Mike McDonald now the former defense coordinator is the Seahawks head coach? Zach Gore, I remember him as a player, second youngest defensive coordinator in the National Football League. Nick Rallis, you might remember him. I think he's the youngest defensive coordinator,
Mhm.
former Eagles assistant. And you've got the best running backs in football. It's just so cool, you know.
Yeah.
But the Ravens they're really good. Yeah, we're going to get it to their secondary when we talk to Greg Cosell to break down the pregame show. We're going to break that down. I can't. Greg's he gave me like 10 things he wants to talk about, so I have to send the stuff to you. By the way, he had some idea because they're so unique what they're doing.
hmm
Eagles are so unique. That's the thing. They did a lot of stuff we saw in training camp. Andrew could attest to it. We didn't quite know what to make of it, and then Vic, because he was new to these players, he didn't really have a lot of Cooper DeJean in training camp, and he's what we call a dynamic nickel. He's just not your typical nickel. So there's so many subplots, but it's a short week for both teams. I have no idea what to expect in that game, but like you, I can't wait. It's a fascinating game. It's a non-conference game it's just kind of thrown in there, and it's going to be fun.
You consider a short week for the Eagles because they played the night game on Sunday, or because they had to
Oh
travel?
yeah, well, they didn't get
Oh,
home
okay.
till they got home. My understanding is they got home at 7 a.m.
hmm
And then the Ravens probably got home at 7 a.m. On Tuesday.
Right.
It's so bizarre that they both play in the same stadium one night after another. Now they're playing each other the following Sunday. Like that is so weird. Anyway,
Yeah, it is. It is really weird. But it's a good scheduling quirk there, so nobody can
yeah.
claim the other had an advantage or anything like that. I'm excited about it. So as we mentioned, the Eagles are 1.5 games because the Lions played Thursday and beat the Bears in a very odd ending game. Uh,
Oh,
so the Eagles are 1.5 games away from the number one seed. So obviously, you want to beat Baltimore more than anything, just to stay. I guess that would be one game behind the Lions if
yep,
you win, and if you
yep.
lose, you fall 2 games behind with five to play. And I thought I looked into this. The tiebreaker scenario doesn't favor the Eagles right now if they were both to be tied at the moment. Now there are more conference games left to play for both teams, clearly, because it's not head to head, and then I think it would go to record versus the conference, I believe would be the second tiebreaker. You're usually better with this than I.
Yeah, well, they're not playing the Lions this year, so
Right.
that's the number one tiebreaker. That doesn't even, you've got it. There's a flow chart of I used to study the stuff. You've got common opponents, strength of victory. There's all sorts of stuff, but it's not. It's a complete non-factor right now. Because they got to make it a tiebreaker because they're not there
Correct.
yet. But I got to talk about this. I'm because the squad because the Eagles, they don't play till Sunday. The Lions played Thursday, of course. It is kind of funny how there were fans in social media years ago, probably leading up to 21. And I get it, they were sick and tired of Lions being on Thanksgiving. They would say they should petition the Roger Goodell and the NFL to get the Lions off Thanksgiving because they're so bad. Now they're the NFL's best team, but the Lions they lost a lot of defensive players. In fact, they're really down like 7 defensive players right now.
Yeah.
They're down 3 inside backers. They fear Malcolm Rodriguez is going to be gone for the season. That he has a very serious knee injury, as Dan Campbell calls him, Rodrigo. Derek Barnes is very underrated. He's been on IR virtually the entire season.
Hmm.
Anzalone has a broken forearm. He won't be back till the playoffs, most likely. Josh Pascal got hurt in the first quarter. Very odd. Boy, that didn't look good. I hope it's not bad. He awkwardly he kind of bent his knee, and then Anzaruki, who had back problems early in his career, he had a hamstring injury. So about Aiden Hutchinson's injury. So listen, yeah, they're the clear favorite, but folks, it's like who's the healthiest now?
Right.
Let's move along here. Lions remaining schedule way harder than the Eagles. Okay, next week, yeah, they beat Green Bay. They beat Green Bay in Green Bay. They dominated that game. They host Green Bay next week. Then they host the Bills. They're at Chicago. They're at the Niners, and they play the Vikings. By the way, look, I know the Bears are terrible right now. They choked that game. I'm telling you that the Lions are killing them. They were up 16-0.
Hmm.
Gibbs gets popped for a fumble. He didn't see the guy. Great job by the defender. They're going to go and score most likely. They were moving it like crazy. Caleb Williams, who couldn't hit the broadside of a bar in the first half, he was phenomenal in the second. In fact, that's really 3 good games, but the last 2, the second half of this game, I mean, he was dealing. Vision was great. Processing was phenomenal. The game before that against the Vikings, he was great, and good for Caleb because he had a rough patch there. Obviously,
Hmm.
they changed offense coordinators, but you're right to bring this up. It's not over, man. No matter what happens Sunday, all of a sudden the Lions have a gauntlet of a schedule.
Yeah, like you said, Packers, Bills. Now both of those are in Detroit, so
Yep.
that's helps them, but that's still a tough sledding right there. Then at Chicago, at San Francisco versus Minnesota. 5 really tough games. Compare that to the Eagles schedule. After the Ravens, they will face the Panthers, which is, what pretty good
A little
layup
better.
there.
Yeah, they're a little
But
better.
a little bit better, but still should beat them handily. Then
Yep.
Steelers, Commanders. So those are the areas that you got to make sure you win those games and then beat the Cowboys and the Giants at the end of the year. So the schedule, I would say, is more favorable for the Eagles. It's not the
Way
easiest
more.
schedule in the
Way
world, but
more.
yeah, way more favorable than for the Eagles. So there's an opportunity here. But
Yep.
you know what? Someone's got to beat the Lions. They don't lose.
I know. I got real worried. I've been on them for gosh 3 years. I that was my breakout team in 22.
Yeah.
I'm a big Dan Campbell fan because all the crap that he took. When the bite kneecaps. I know you love that. Whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
But and I get it. If people are like, "Who is this guy?" And all this guy does is win. He's a phenomenal coach, and he's another connector with his players. A former player, you might remember, was a journeyman blocking tight end for
Hmm.
the Cowboys and Giants, and also Saints. But bottom line is they're a great football team. They're down a lot of players, and we're going to see now if the Eagles could somehow find a way to win, and if they could protect. Like the thing about the Ravens is if you could protect. I want to know what Greg's intel shows about what the hell is wrong with their secondary. They're giving up more explosives downfield than anyone. It's hard to understand, hard to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. That's an area where you'd think the Eagles can make some hay
Yeah.
in that game. All right, let's get into the Eagles injury situation. Some good news, some not so great news. The good news is that Jalen Hurts is no longer on the injury report. He had been on with the ankle, and of course, Britton Covey, who came back last in the last game, is good to go as well. I gotta say, Adam, I call it good news, but there was never a time this year where I thought the injury that Jalen Hurts had, the ankle injury, was I don't mean to put in quotes. I'm just saying ankle injury was bothering him, hampering him,
Yeah.
limiting him. You've made this point. He's looked way more explosive as a runner this year than he did last year. Are the design runs great? No, they're not working like they did 2 years ago. But it's not because he doesn't look explosive. It just looks like the defense is ready for it and sometimes goads him into it. But when he gets out into the second level, it's there. He looks like the Jalen Hurts from a couple of years ago.
Yeah. He turned that ankle a little bit, 2 or 3 weeks ago. What was the rule? I know you contacted the NFL about it. So if a guy has it practices fully, they don't have to list him. What was that rule? Do you remember exactly?
It's about treatment and whether I believe whether you're getting well, yes, if you practice in full, you don't have to be and you don't get treatment, I think, then you don't have to be on the injury report.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
they downplay that ankle injury when Sirianni had a faux pas, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
We don't need to go there. But the cool thing about Britton Covey is because remember he was recovering without surgery from a broken shoulder blade, and he's good to go. We got our answer. As we suspected, he would be their punt returner, and we take DeJean off of punts. So they've done
Yep.
that. Milton Williams, as our Andrew DiCecco reported, it was technically a foot, but it was more of his heel.
Hmm.
He's fine. Thankfully, everything the testing on the foot or whatever they did with him the day after that game 2 weeks ago was fine. So he's good to go. Jalen's Hunt and Vic Fangio confirmed it. He said that's why maybe he didn't have the reps we expected a couple weeks ago with the ankle, but he's off the injury report. And good for Nakobe Dean. He had this lingering groin injury. He's off the injury report. So who's on it this week? Devontae Smith. But as we talked about in our Patreon chat, we
Hmm.
gave folks a nugget. The word we heard is he was going to try to practice by Friday. And hey, Devontae did work on Thursday. So we'll see. It's a hamstring injury. You can't take chances with skill position players and hamstring injuries. You don't want these to linger. He's had it for now over 3 weeks, but hey, he got some work in. You have to see the next day
Yeah.
how it responds. Okay, so we'll
Today is
see
big.
today.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly
Absolutely.
right. And Darius Slay, concussion. This is a short week, so obviously it's not looking good. But I've been surprised this year. We have we've seen a decent amount of players come back within 7 days.
Hmm.
Every once in a while, a guy comes back from 6 days from concussion, but that we'll see. I wouldn't count Isaiah Rodgers is. Vic talked about it. I'm glad Vic talked. Fangio is great. He's like Jim Johnson, man. He doesn't care. You ask a question, he's gonna give you the good intel, man. He made it clear. We all knew. Anyone who went to training camp knew it wasn't close between. Well, Vic said it was close. He was being nice between Rodgers and Ringo. It really wasn't.
Hmm.
Training camp, it was clear. There was a clear separation between Rodgers. Rodgers had a really good training camp.
Yeah.
I know some folks, and it's a couple guys brought up there's some good points on our YouTube channel about Ringo's bigger physically. Would they consider either starting Ringo, which I never thought would happen, but maybe rotating him more? That's a good question. I'll ask Greg what he thinks about that when we do our pregame show. But because the thing with the Baltimore is they actually have a deep receiver core now. He hasn't done anything, Deontay Johnson, but he is on the Ravens roster. People forget about that. They traded for him.
Uh-huh.
They actually have depth, but it's because they play so many tight ends and they have actually a key injury at tight end. We'll have to see. I doubt it. I would expect Rodgers to play most of the snaps, but it is a fair point because boy, Rodgers is so small. I mean, I don't even know if he's 180. I think he might be 177, 178,
He's a
which is
small
really
guy.
small. Yeah.
Yep.
So
All
anyway,
right. So we'll see. Yeah, I agree with you. I think if with Slay, the fact that he didn't even practice on Thursday. So on Friday, if he does get out there, it would have to be a limited one because you have to have this limited outdoor practice first to even be, take the next step in the protocol. So even if he's out there Friday and limited, that's just part of the process. And
still good though.
it would, yes, it would be a step in the right direction
Yeah.
and then make you think that by Saturday late, he can be cleared by the team and then the independent neurologist. But again, that's not a definite either if he's out on
No,
the field. If he's not practicing today, Friday,
get
then
it. Yeah,
then I wouldn't even yeah, yeah, yeah.
it,
He,
it,
he
it
is one of those guys who doesn't need to
yeah,
because he's played in the league so long, but
yeah.
I don't think it would even be a consideration.
But from the protocol, the 6 steps, I don't recall a player even getting cleared to even do limited work on Friday and then getting cleared.
Agreed.
I don't think it's possible. But bottom line is it's Rodgers, then Ringo, Eli Ricks, who they never play. He's still in the roster. They're He's a guy like no matter what happens when they need roster spots, they're not cutting him. Like they cut Jack Stoll, who is not even active for the Dolphins. Why did they claim him?
That I was thinking the same thing when I saw that he was
Well, I don't
inactive.
understand that. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
must, this is something we'll talk about more when it's relevant in the offseason,
Yeah.
the draft comma, but there must be some real someone in the defensive backs coaching room, maybe Christian, I don't know, someone who likes Eli Ricks. I mean, to your point, for them to keep, he's a young corner, and this team is just now finally, after about 20 years, starting to develop
Yeah.
good young corners, starting with their draft picks, but. They liked him the old staff liked him last year enough to try him out as a nickel. The new staff has kept him here. He's still on the
Which was a mistake,
facility.
by the way. Rick's is
Well, that was out of they had
they
no
had
other
to.
options. Yeah, yeah. They didn't
100%.
want
I
to. They
got you.
had to.
I
Yeah.
got you.
So
But
there must be
huh?
somebody who kind of likes the. He's a
Yeah.
mature, he's a kid who has matured. He did the diary with Andrew DeSheko last
Mhm.
year. You could tell he was
Pretty
smart, he
cool.
was heady. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And I think that they probably like that about him and want to hang on to him. You're going to need depth, not just this year, but that's why we'll talk about it more in the off season. But
Hmm.
you know, Rodgers, I think, was on a 1 year deal, right?
He
He's a
was.
free
Yeah.
agent. Right.
Minimum. Yep.
Right. And Ringo, like you're saying, is really a fourth or fifth corner. So you're going to want that somebody to be your number three corner next year.
I mean, see, the thing about Ringo is, and I saw this in OTAs, he clearly can run. We told you when he was drafted, he's very stiff.
Hmm.
And as one coach told me from another team, you cannot get rid of stiffness, lower body stiffness. No matter how much stretch you get, you can't the word around, he's tight hipped, maybe even high hipped,
Hmm.
which is just some guys are born with it.
Well, Greg also said guys who tend to be taller physical corners
Hmm.
have that. It's the smaller twitch guys who can be twitchy, but the taller you get, it's harder to be twitchy.
Harder. In match carry deliver, man, you got to be able to turn. I remember Bill Polian explained to me how it worked with Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman, the word around the league is Sherman could only fit in his own scheme.
Hmm.
Because he's really, remember, he was a receiver. He started as a receiver at Stanford, and he moved to corner, and he was, what's he, 6'3" ish, something like that. It's hard for these guys to flip their hips, so you got to be able to hand off in zone, and Eli Ricks was a great story last year, but as soon as they got him, this staff said, Ringo's over him, and was way over those guys. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. But Rodgers, nice story, good for him. And look, I'll say this much: the Eagles injury report is at least smaller, but obviously the big one, the sad one, is BG. And we talked to Greg in the Inside the Tape show. Greg gave some good stuff there. But by the way, that was one of our longest ones. We must have covered like 30 players in that show because we didn't that show. If you haven't seen it, because we're in a short week, we didn't do tape. We didn't show clips. Usually 5 or 6 clips that we show, but in lieu of that, it actually worked out well because we covered so many players. It was fascinating.
definitely. All right, Adam, before we move on, Christmas is right around the corner as we are now past Thanksgiving, and the NBA loves its Christmas schedule. So does the NFL loves
Mhm.
their Christmas schedule as well. The Sixers are playing on Christmas. Now they're playing on the road. Of course, they're playing the arch rival Boston Celtics, and a lot of people like to make trips. A lot of people want to, go away for the holiday. So if you feel like going to Boston and watching the Sixers play the Celtics, the big heated rivalry continued, well, you can get tickets for that on Game Time. And trust me, there's nothing like going to a Christmas Day NBA game. There's celebrity sightings. You got the sound of the sneakers squeaking against the court, the feel of the crowd. That rocks up in Boston just like it does in Philadelphia as well. So if you're going to go to this event or any Christmas time shows or any other holiday shows, use Game Time and take advantage of their feature that we've been telling you about, Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out all the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And there are just so many great shows, great NFL games, NBA games, college basketball now that you can use the Game Time app for and take advantage of that super deal and other tiers of deals that give you the best value for the section that you're sitting in. It's a very user-friendly experience, and you're covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry that includes event cancellation protection and job loss protection, along with the lowest price guarantee or game time credits you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, now we're also going to hear a word from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you hop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get an unbelievable deal. Take advantage of all the inventory. Take advantage of the website. Go take advantage of the customer service if you go visit them out there on 202 in what town is it at? In Westchester?
Westchester. Yep.
Yep. Great customer service. Brett Shoulder and his staff do an unbelievable job. This is the time you want to go get great customer service when you're either buying or trading in a car. They do it all at Sky Motor Cars.
By the way, so I'm looking now. I forgot they had the budget lot. So for they're not all high ends. They do every kind of price range. You could also, if you want to trade your car to them, like my wife and I did, you could value your trade. And get information. I forgot to mention this the last time on financing. You could fill out an online credit application. Really, there's everything you could possibly need at SkyMotorCars.com. And again, if you live in California, you're looking for a used car, you could see every single car they have online. As I look at them now, very, very cool. Prices and everything, pictures and everything. Yeah, very cool.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about the Ravens' injuries here. Not very significant on offense. Charlie Kolar, their tight end, wasn't he a high pick for them at one point?
Iowa State. It's actually important because they play a lot. They play a high percentage of 13 personnel comparatively to other teams. So actually, it's a problem.
True.
I don't know what they have a kid who's really not played on their practice squad. And also, when they had a couple injuries earlier this season, Kolar had to move up a little bit. It was kind of stunning though with Mark Andrews and the other kid,
Isaiah Likely.
Yes, thank you, Isaiah Likely, who's really really talented kid. What are you going to do with three tight ends? Like because it's like Kolar was a pretty good college tight end, and what are you going to do with it? But Eric DeCosta, the GM, and obviously Harbaugh believe in this scheme, and they were doing it under Greg Roman, and he was now with Jim Harbaugh. Yep. It's crazy. What's always new again. Yep. And they're doing it out with the Chargers, and they're doing it here with the three tight ends. So yeah, the Charlie Kolar broke his forearm, so he's out definitely. The other injuries, this one's key because the reason why Michael Pierce is in the league, for one thing, he's a supreme run stuffer. He's been in IR. He started practicing this week. They're hopeful that he'll be able to play. They already have a great run defense. But they're two big ones. Roquan Smith did not play last week with his hamstring injury. He's trending towards playing. They want to see how he does today, this Friday, with his hamstring injury. And this one just popped up. Kyle Van Noy, who's been an amazing story, man. Really good story. He has two injuries, hamstring and neck. He did not work on Wednesday and Thursday. Today's a big day, obviously. Hell, this guy, how tough is this guy? He played, I think, the following week from a fractured orbital bone. So I wouldn't rule this guy out unless they rule him out.
Doesn't it seem like Kyle Van Noy has played for every 3-4 defensive team in the NFL?
Yeah, 3-4 teams, right. So Miami, speaking of your point, Miami, right. Detroit, New England, Baltimore. Anyone else we're missing?
Did he not play for the Chiefs at one point when they had Bob Sutton there? Maybe
I don't think so.
No, he didn't. But there was another team. He played for another team. I'm almost positive of it, and I can't think of it.
I will tell you right now, he has played for. Oh, the Chargers. Ben, I don't even.
Chargers, that's right.
I do not even remember that 2 years ago. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
here's your other team.
Yeah. Good experienced veteran. Good player. So Smith, Roquan, he's not practiced this week yet, though, right?
No, he has. No, I just said it. He has.
Oh, okay. Limited. I thought he was. Yes. Was he limited or was he full?
Limited. No, limited. Now, the word I heard, he's trending towards playing, but they won't know till after today's practice.
Okay.
And they go with the committee if he doesn't play. They kind of gone with a couple guys. That would
Mhm.
be big. Look, he's phenomenal. It is amazing. I have to look this up. I have to actually ask someone with the Bears. What did Vic coach him? Because I know he had an issue. There was something weird going on with him some years ago,
Mhm.
and he might have done his big contract by himself or with help. I can't remember with the Ravens,
Uh-huh.
but he fell out of favor with the Bears, and boy, he's revived his career in a big way. He's a big time player.
Yeah.
But this secondary, I get that Zach Orr's new. He's 32, he's young, and it's no different than the Nick Sorensen is going through with the Niners, who's a former. You might remember him as a journeyman safety,
Yep.
Chiefs and others, and he was first year calling plays, and it's not been great. Guys have to you got to be patient, and I'll be interested to see what happens though, because man. It would be great because look, it's great. Barkley's amazing. The Eagles' defense is amazing, but I'd love to see what would happen if Hurts gets time and it's bombs. We haven't really seen bombs away this year much, like
Right.
22. I'd be fascinated to see what happens if they get protection and see what happens if they could get bombs away against the secondary because there's something going on. It's so bizarre that they've given up so many explosive plays downfield. The Ravens.
It is. It is. Their offense for the first time in a long time, you call the Ravens an offensive kind of minded team or an offensive first team. Lamar has been great. Derrick Henry has been great. And even though the Ravens are still very good in the front six, they can rush the passer, they can stop the run. They are, as you said, very really loose in the secondary. Um, but I wanted to talk sort of about this. We've been talking about Saquon Barkley's MVP candidacy, and the guy it seems like he's got to knock off the pedestal would be Lamar Jackson, who is having statistically an even better year than last year when he won MVP, or even a couple of years ago when he was won MVP. The thing that really impresses me, Adam, about Lamar is his ball distribution now. I mean, if you go look, Zay Flowers is clearly their number one receiver. He's leading them in
Mhm.
yards. But their touchdown leader is Mark Andrews, who actually has less of a role this year than he's had in past years. Rashad Bateman, who, he almost wanted out a couple of years ago, is not first round pick who hasn't done
Brett
much.
hurt a lot. Yeah.
Right, always hurt. He's second in receiving yards, and he's second in receiving touchdowns. So between Flowers, Andrews, we mentioned Isaiah Likely, Justice Hill catches the ball out of the backfield, Bateman. I mean, Lamar has done a really good job of keeping defenses honest by just spreading the ball around. And it's really him and Todd Monken, year two of that system,
Yep.
has really clicked well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Don't forget about Nelly.
Oh,
Nelly.
Nelson, yeah, he'll contribute every once in a while, but
Yeah, he
yeah,
does.
he's
Yeah.
still
No,
around.
and I don't know how and poor Deontay Johnson, he wanted out of
Hmm.
Carolina. I mean, and then he goes to Baltimore and they can't get him the ball because you just mentioned they're so deep. They actually have a pretty deep pass target group.
Yeah.
So that speaks to them spread around. But I could tell you from being with the Ravens at training camp, I was talking to one of their coaches who I was saying, hey, how's it working with Lamar and Henry? He goes, dude, watch today. He just
Hmm.
talked to me after practice. And there were a couple plays where the defense just froze. Because with the RPO, they didn't know what he was going to do. And he pulled it out. It was a great fake. He held it really well, and they thought Henry was going to get it. Henry went left, and Lamar went right down the sideline. And then I saw the coach after the practice. He goes, "See what I told you?"
Yeah.
Goes, "Now the first couple weeks of the season wasn't great, and then they started rolling. Then they're great. I don't know what happens to Lamar. And I understand the playoffs. Obviously, you're facing better opponents, but he's a phenomenal regular season quarterback. He throws a beautiful deep ball. He's one of the most dangerous runners in NFL history,
Right.
and he's gotten over that the thin frame. I know clubs were worried about that, and I got to give Eric DeCosta credit. Flacco, he walked away from Flacco, him and Ozzie Newsome,
Hmm.
and Ozzie handed off to DeCosta to be his GM and to take over for him. And it's worked out. And then they brought in Henry. They tried to trade from last year, didn't work
Yep.
out. Now they got
Yep.
their man. And this Justice Hill, who's one of the best red zone running backs, he does all sorts of stuff for them in the red zone. So they're really explosive, man. I know the Eagles are pretty deep on defense, and we'll have to talk about BG a little bit, but the matchups are fascinating.
And here's the thing: the Ravens are 8-4, so that kind of hurts, in my opinion. It hurts Lamar's MVP candidacy a little bit because usually, even though we know the MVP goes to a quarterback, it usually goes to a quarterback who whose team is a number one or a number two seed. Very rarely do you see a sixth seed or a fifth seed right now is what the Ravens would be, their quarterback be the MVP. So if anything, you might make a better argument for Josh Allen because the Bills are 9-2 going into the weekend. But the Eagles are 9-2. I feel like Saquon's got a good shot here. The way things are going for him, the numbers he's been putting up, and if the Eagles can beat the Ravens, and I don't know what the Ravens schedule exactly looks like over the next 5. I can look. I don't need to look at it. I know there's a lot of NFC North in it because it is for everybody. So it's not going to be easy for them to just
Actually none. Just so you know, real quick.
Don't tell me I'm wrong on that. Really?
Yeah.
There's no AFC North teams on their. They don't finish.
No. I'm sorry. I thought you meant NFC North. Sorry, my bad.
No, I said NFC North, but I meant AFC. I meant their division.
I got you. Yeah. Well, okay. Here's their schedule. They're on a bye. Why the hell does the NFL have a Week 14 bye? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The last bye weeks are next week, Week 14. But so they're at the Giants. Okay, they should kill them.
Right.
They host the Steelers. They're at the Texans, who are struggling. God, they've fallen off.
Yeah.
And then they host the Browns, and who you never know what you're getting from the Browns. They've gotten healthier. They're looking better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's and let's not forget. Remember the panic in Baltimore? They lost their first 2 games. Remember that awful loss at home against the Raiders. People couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they turn it around, as Harbs always does. They won 5 straight and they turn their season around. But the game in Week 11. Talk about tattoo you. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. I can feel it at home watching the physicality of that game at Pittsburgh.
That was an awesome game.
Oh my God, poor Lamar got the crap knocked out of him.
He did. That was a game.
Incredible.
And you're right about the Browns because they already lost them. They lost to the Browns.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean that. Good. Well, no, I was just gonna say they beat Pittsburgh. That snow game, which is really cool. I don't. It's fat. Baltimore's had a fascinating year. But look, they're going to be tough. This is the fun game because both teams are technically on a short week. Baltimore even shorter than the Eagles. Eagles actually have a 1-day advantage. Sirianni loves that stuff. He's talked about that, about getting any kind of, if it's an hour, it's an advantage. I always laugh at that. And then the Eagles take a bus there anyway, so it's no big deal. But and the one injury is BG, and that it's just. We talked about it with Greg. We've talked about this week on all of our platforms and shows and so forth. We forget how great of a run defender BG is. It's not a stat. It's just what the tape looks like, and it's the veteran smarts. Like he knows exactly where to be. The technique. He's just really good at what he does, and it's going to be tough, man. I know they've added 2 guys, but Charles Harris just got here. He's got to learn the defense. KJ Henry is a tall, angular player he's very unlikely.
This is just depth. Yeah, I mean, you're hoping maybe you get. They got to go with what they've got. So my theory would be that if the Ravens can get into the finish of the year, you mentioned that schedule, and they get a top 2 seed, Lamar will probably get MVP. But if they don't, if it's Kansas City, Buffalo, if it's Kansas City, Pittsburgh, if it's Buffalo, Pittsburgh, then I think it opens up the door for Saquon to get MVP if the Eagles get a 1 or a 2 seed. Then maybe then it becomes Saquon versus Josh Allen. Who knows? I'd have to see how Buffalo.
You know what, Josh? I'm sorry, Josh Allen. Look, he's fun to watch.
I would agree with you that Saquon's got sort of the better year, but you know how voters always go quarterback.
I know the quarterback, and we haven't had an MVP since running back since 2012, Adrian Peterson. I get that. It's funny because every radio show I did this week, they had to bring that up. I was like, guys, I'm about what the tape looks like. Okay. Yeah. Saquon Barkley's best player in the National Football League this season. Okay. No, and I'm not a homer. I don't care. Wins. I'm just going by what I see, what I know, and what I'm told. The guy's been unbelievable. I don't want to curse here. It's like one guy, what market did the guy call me a homer? I said, dude, I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of football. And
if anything, we get criticized for not being too Eagles pro enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly right. But look, he's been unbelievable. I vote in 2 polls. One of them is the Pro Football Writers Association. Oh, right.
Do I?
1 year I put my ballot out on Twitter, and I'm gonna do it this year. If the season ended now, I know it doesn't. I would vote for Barkley. I would go Barkley 1, Lamar 2, and after that, Derrick Henry's. I know he won't get it, but I got to think about it more.
Yeah. Well,
But man,
that's a tough one. You'd
tough.
love to
Yeah,
be able to reward the Lions if they go 16-1 or 15-2 with something, but there's really not. They, Gibbs is amazing, but he doesn't get the ball enough. Like they're just
exactly.
so well rounded. Same thing with St. Brown. He's got good numbers, but not like MVP numbers. And Goff doesn't have MVP numbers either.
Nope.
So unfortunately, they get penalized for being so well rounded and not
Yeah.
having that one spectacular.
Good point. I hadn't thought of that because the Pro Football Writers Association ballot is so long. I appreciate it. I do, but I kind of dread it because I always try to turn it in. And I remember like every year I go, oh God, here we go. It's going to take me an hour and a half because it's they have so many categories. I do the AP writers ever put theirs out? I don't know if they do.
Some of them do, and some of them
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
Well, most of them don't, but some do.
Okay. I'll definitely put it on Patreon at the very least, and hopefully maybe we'll both put it up there.
Yeah.
But I would say Saquon now is B West going back as long as we've covered the Eagles and me since roughly 99 2000.
Mm-hmm.
B West was and I might have been in the minority, but I think he would have been a Hall of Famer without the bad knees. I know you can't take that away. We get that.
I'm in that camp with you. It was him and LaDainian
Special
Tomlinson for
LT,
a couple
yeah.
of years there.
Oh, right. But B West just his acceleration. It just was. I folks, for the young people who are in their 20s who didn't see Brian Westbrook, you're missing out. I go to YouTube and watch the highlights. It's something like you just don't see much like explosion at running back. Saquon's got it right now. Like I was saying this in our chat Wednesday night. I feel like it's Iverson on the open court going, and something special is going to happen. This is what we're seeing in the second half with Saquon. What does T.O. say? Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's funny I said it when Donovan and T.O. play together because something special is going to happen before T.O. had to do what he did. But this is in this club. I mean, anyone else come to mind with Eagles who've played with the Eagles? T.O. maybe.
I always kind of remove T.O. from the conversation because he was such a short term. It'd be obvious. You could literally say he's the best Eagle of all time because he's the most talented player maybe to ever wear an Eagles uniform. But I mean, he was only with the team for a year and a half, so I kind of exclude him from the conversation. I have always said that Brian Westbrook was the most talented Eagle that I've ever covered, and jumping on the beat since 2005. And I loved your point that you just made because I agree with you. Even though there are some great running backs in the league right now, including Saquon and Josh Jacobs and Henry, and even though Saquon will catch good wheel routes, I mean he's clearly catching the ball in an impactful way for the Eagles. He's running kind of running back routes. A wheel route is a running back route, right? A Texas route is a running back route. I still don't think that I see a lot of what Westbrook did, which is line up in the slot and run slot receiver routes. He would run mesh concepts. He would do drag routes, sail routes, things like that. Because he was that good. I think the closest thing I see to that is sort of Devin Achane in the Achane in the Dolphins.
Devon. Yeah, Devon.
Is it Devon? I'm sorry, Devon Achane in the Dolphins offense. He will line up not just as a running back, but as a receiver and slot and catch some passes. Yeah. But that's also really quick. I mean, I just don't see you don't see too many running backs line up and run slot receiver like route.
True.
Westbrook was.
B West was one of the most special players I've seen. Up live at a game, just marvel at the explosion, acceleration. But yeah, Barkley right now is just it's just remarkable. And the people who graded Saquon stay with the Giants were not wrong. Now you could say, well, the O-line sucked. For the most part, it did. It's definitely also true.
Yep.
There's a reason why the Giants aren't very good. It's because they've done a terrible job of building their offensive line. They've earned their suckness. Okay, the Giants. they like. I'll say it again. I don't know why what seems so obvious is so tough for teams. If you really look at the bottom feeders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the bottom feeders each conference. Giants, terrible offensive line. Panthers, not a very good offensive line. Saints have had a plethora of injuries, right?
Yeah.
Vegas, very bad offensive line. Jacksonville spent a lot of their line. It's been disappointing. The New England offensive line, not good. Tennessee, terrible for years.
Yeah.
Jets, total patchwork. There's a reason why, and I understand some of these teams don't have good quarterbacks, but You might want to build your line. I don't understand what's so you would don't you study good teams, people?
Well,
Would you ever bet?
I'll cut the Giants a little slack on this. I don't think it's a lack of effort. I think it's a lack of judgment and or scouting
Yeah, Evan
because
Neal. You missed
ideally
on
the
it.
Giants
Yeah.
thought that they were going to have two first round picks at each tackle, but Neal didn't work out. They used a second round pick on the guy from Minnesota who's huge, Schmitz, right? He's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. They brought in Runyon, who was good with the Packers. He's okay. I mean,
He got kind of benched, to be honest with you. He got
yeah,
benched.
yeah, yeah. And Azudu was drafted in the third round, was he not? Was he not?
Yeah, and as we knew when we covered that first game, it
Yeah.
was a total mistake to make him a backup left tackle.
Right. So they've
Again,
put resources into it. They've just
some,
missed. They've missed badly.
some,
The
not
Neal
enough.
one really hurt that. The Neal
Terrible,
committee really
terrible.
hurt them. Yeah.
But the thing is, Howie's hit rate on the offensive line. I I wonder if there's anyone who studies it. Is there a better GM drafting offensive lineman? I know having Stout develop him that helps,
Yeah, that's
but
a good
God,
one. I mean, the Ravens
Howie's
and
hit
Steelers
rate.
are
Yeah,
pretty good at it too.
yeah,
That's
but
good.
not this good. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, no. Well, there was a time where the Ravens had like four Pro Bowlers on their line when they had Stanley, they had who's the right tackle that they had forever who was really good. Why can't I think of his name?
I don't know.
Either way, the Ravens have been pretty decent, but you're right. The Eagles have been the best at it. There's no question
And,
about it.
and right now, okay, you're gonna have to vote. I mean, y- I'd have to ask Greg if he thinks because we don't we haven't talked about Jurgens a lot,
Hmm.
but I know he's playing well from what we've been told. But I will see if Lane is having a great year.
Hmm.
Marlott, I know was hurt, but he also has had a very good year. I mean, maybe you can make a case all five or based on tape study only are Pro Bowl worthy, just because I know people talk about the Lions line. It's very good. Okay. I know it's sort of subjective if you rank them. I mean, what do you
Hmm.
like? You bet Lions and Eagles right now, are the two best offensive lines. I think most people would agree with that. If you want to have one over the other, whatever.
Hmm.
But I find it hard to believe that the Eagles don't have the best line because they don't have not only do they not have a weakness, they're all good. Now, are all five elite? Okay, that's debatable. Lane's elite. Mylott is very good.
Hmm.
Jordan Dickerson, Landon Dickerson's close, and it's a hell of a line, man.
Yeah, it's a great line. It really is a very good line. All right. So again, really a lot of little subplots. Not only is this a great game coming up between the Eagles and Ravens because they're two great teams, but obviously both chasing number one seeds if they can get it, and then the little MVP conversation there between Lamar and Saquon Barkley as well. Make sure you catch the pregame show with myself and Adam and Greg Cosell as we break this game down even more with lots more X's and O's, and that'll be Sunday morning, first thing in the morning, Inside the Birds pregame show. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in the Eagles Intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.